Technology has been around for as long as we humans existed. We continuously develop new and improved ways to do simple tasks. In modern days, much of our daily routines are in its simplest forms due to advances in technology. Things such as doing laundry, doing homework, buying groceries, etc. But things haven't always been as smooth as it is now. In fact, we used to solve problems much differently than we do now, and the way we solve those problems continue to evolve as time continues. Movies always seem to portray a rather unrealistic version of technology, usually futuristic. This sets the idea that our future is surrounded and dependent on the developments of tech, and this was even the case back then. Solving problems requires the use of your brain, obviously. If a task was too lengthy or too difficult, as living organisms, we tend to find an improved way to complete our task with minimal effort. Yes, we're very lazy, but if it works, it works. And that's exactly what problem solving is. We come up with a problem and we sought for a solution. Now we're going to throw ourselves back in time, as far as we can remember, to the first essence of human beings. Cavemen. Although dumb-witted versions of our modern selves, they utilize problem solving, believe it or not. They are forced to do so to survive and thrive as a species living in the wild. Now, let me give you an example of how problem solving was used to survive. As humans, our body temperatures drop, and we get that feeling of chilliness. Primitive beings struggled to survive during harsh winters, and were forced to huddle together for warmth. As time passed, eventually, one being discovered the idea of a fire. Throughout the discovery of fire, they were able to live long enough to reproduce and pass on their solution with the discovery of fire. It was used for many other things such as light, cooking, etc. It became one of the most important tools of survival for the primal age. As we continue to travel down the timeline, there are many more examples of problem solving displayed, and much of these discoveries stick along with us. Fire, for example, is still used today. Another primary example of something that stuck around even until this modern age is clothing. Clothing was first created in 25,000 to 50,000 BCE. Now, it isn't the flashy, stylish clothing that we see today. It was created back then, not made for the intent of looking good, but it was made for the intent of staying warm and for protection. It wasn't the most comfy clothing either. Much of it was in fact found with evidence of lice embedded. Despite this, it was enough to get around. Going along the same time period, shelter was something that was required in the rules of survival. Without it, nature can attack pretty harshly with its weather conditions, its animals, its droughts, and more. At first, shelter was just dirt on the ground. This sufficed, but it wasn't the most efficient, neither it was the most safest. So primal individuals eventually discovered caves and they resided there. This also sufficed, but again, it wasn't the safest nor it wasn't the most efficient. Between 8000 and 9000 BCE, the first essences of housing arrived. This was the idea of settlement. Together, people lived in harmony, to keep themselves thriving in their community and life. Settlement ridded the idea of a hunter-gatherer lifestyle, which was used in the past how many years, and they moved on into the agricultural side of life. Although there were still hunters, farming was used as another source of food. The agricultural life allowed for the development of human beings as they continued to evolve and prosper. The first written languages were developed by the Sumerian people in southern Mesopotamia in 3000 BCE. A written language allowed for physical copies of written history rather than verbal ones for modern historians to decipher. These physical copies were used for keeping track of information. In the Paleolithic Age, marks were simply used to keep track of animals. In the Paleolithic Age, these written languages allowed for a wider use of writing for several other reasons. Much of the writing was used to depict histories and, as well as propaganda for followers. In 2500 BCE, ancient Egyptians introduced an early version of paper called papyrus, so this was used as a more efficient way to write down information. With the development of written languages, spoken languages were also evolving alongside it. Spoken languages allowed for oral communication of information. We learned how to speak at a very young age, and even before we spoke proper words, we babbled as babies. But how did people communicate in the past? Like today, they developed their own verbal sounds to speak to each other. They developed a word for almost everything, and people passed down the languages to their offspring. This communication allowed for the sharing of information with one another. Over time, many other technologies were invented to stand as a solution for a problem. The wheel was invented and allowed for the improvement of transportation. Bronze began to be used for weaponsmithing and basic crafting. Irrigation channels were created to control plants' water levels at a steady rate, so humans didn't have to physically do it themselves. Windmills were developed to create a mean of rotational energy to power everyday life. Gunpowder was invented to improve the strength of weaponry. The list could go on and on and on. But one of the most important discoveries and inventions in history is electricity. Just think about it. The world around us is completely overtaken by electricity. In so many ways, it has made such a major impact in today's society. It powers lights, electronics, and basically powers your life. You wouldn't even be able to watch this YouTube video without electricity. It's channeled all over us, and you can visually see it through power plants and power lines. Now, who discovered electricity, you may wonder? There are many theories on who actually discovered it. Some people believe it to be Benjamin Franklin, one of our founding fathers, when he flew his kite and it was struck by lightning. This event developed the discovery of a property of electricity, not necessarily electricity itself, but it did help discover electromagnetic induction. Others believe it to be William Gilbert, nicknamed the father of electricity, since he's the one that named the term. Others say it to be Michael Faraday, who discovered electromagnetic rotation. But in this, it's not a matter of who discovered it. It's a matter of who developed it into the widely used resource it is today. Again, who is it that developed it into what electricity is today? The inventors Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison further pushed electricity into our daily lives. Although Tesla was rather forgotten, Edison is seen as one of America's greatest inventors. He's credited to many fields of inventions that are still used today, such as mass communication, sound recording, motion pictures, and most importantly, electrical power generation. Think about it. This man was the beginning of your mobile devices, iPhones, iPads, light bulbs, laptops, games, movies, songs, the list goes on and on. All these things are incorporated into our daily lives and are used to ease them. Many of our problems are often overlooked because modern day technology easily solves it. Speaking of modern technology, look where it's gotten us. We often overlook many of the inventions today because, well, we're used to it. We see it everywhere, like everywhere. Back in the day, our technology would have completely broken the world and the people. But we live in a day and age where it's constantly continuing to improve around us, and we often don't tend to notice it. As said before, everything is created with the intent to be the solution to a problem that we have. Look at the world around you, and maybe take some time to think about how far we've come as human beings. You need to clean your clothes? We have washing machines and dryers. Feeling a little dirty? You can simply just take a nice clean shower that's built into your house. Feeling hungry? Cook yourself some food in your kitchen. All these pleasures of life, they would be much harder if you lived in an older time period. You'd have to manually and physically wash your clothes with water and wait for them to dry out in the sun. You'd have to bathe yourself using a bucket and slowly cleaning yourself out. Feeling a little hungry? You have to make a pretty lengthy walk for some food if you didn't already have some in your house. With all this in consideration, it's not a stretch to say that we really have come a long way thanks to our ability to problem solve. It's greatly improved our daily living conditions along with modern society. But as much positive things as there are, there's also some negativity regarding technology. We start depending more on fossil fuels and the burning of energy. These release harmful chemicals and gases into the atmosphere around us, leading to global warming. This wasn't as big of a problem a few hundred years back, but as we continue to advance, as we continue to develop more things, so does the problem of these gases. The increasing demand for technology increases the pressure on the use of natural resources. If we continue going on like this, there won't be a world to develop and grow in. We can fix this problem, however, by creating environmentally friendly ideas that rather than hurt the environment, helps it. This way, it's a win-win situation with development as well as the environment. Another problem with the development of technology is that it distracts us from the world around us. Cell phones, for example, are a great technological advancement that you literally see everywhere. It's used for many different things, and it continues to improve. But many of us are glued to our mobile devices, and we lose sight of what's really important. There's been a variety of troubles caused by them, such as car accidents due to texting and driving, recording something when you should really just live for the moment, and just simply getting annoyed at someone when they go on their phone while you talk to them. It's these small things that make us lose touch with our surroundings. But this can easily be fixed if you just take time to admire what's around you rather than what's online. In conclusion, our problem-solving skills allow us to continuously improve ourselves along with the world around us. They are a huge help, but at the same time, they kind of isolate us from society. As humans, we have learned to take an issue and find a way to solve it, and at the same time, improve upon it as efficiently as possible. And that's the amazing thing about technology and the human race. No matter how far we go, no matter how far we develop, there will always be an improvement that could be made upon. We continue to develop ourselves and our minds, and we continue to become smarter. And it's all thanks to our ability to solve problems.